Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Warzone In Depth. In today's episode, I want to talk about how the FR556 is the new AUG. And I know that sounds outlandish because the FR556 used to be considered one of the worst weapons in all of Warzone. It's one that I put near the bottom of my tier list. But right now, it's kind of like a better AUG, or at least very similar to the AUG in M16, and fits really well into the current meta of the game. I was genuinely surprised at how well this weapon performed. Given the AUG recoil nerf, it is also definitely worth looking into as an alternative. But first, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. They just added the new Shadowkin faction to Shadow Legends, so the naming is perfect. They're essentially dark Japanese warriors like ninja, samurai, Oni, demons, and other mythical creatures that you would probably only see in anime. They're the newest faction in the game, and their backstory is currently shrouded in mystery other than that they don't seem to be good guys. Most of them have a playstyle of being a turn speed manipulator too, so they can be very powerful in PvP. I actually didn't do a raid promo last month because my health was so bad I almost couldn't get out of bed, but while I was laid up in bed, Raid Shadow Legends is mostly what I did. I played the absolute devil out of this game, and I like it because it's basically a turn-based version of Gauntlet. It's somewhere in between an RPG and a dungeon crawler with some PvP elements to it, and it's turn-based, so I don't have to be very twitchy. Personally, I'm enjoying the PvP elements these days. Even if my team's not as strong as I want them to be, it's still fun. I recently acquired Cupidus from the Valentine's event to be my main carry because he can deal a massive amount of damage to everybody on the enemy team with one hit, which is just lovely. Raid Shadow Legends is currently celebrating its 2-year anniversary event right now, which means tons of daily events, tournaments, sign-in bonuses, Doom Tower expansions, more stuff going on that I can keep up with, but for me, since I play a couple of times a day, that's just free loot every time I sign in. So, what are you waiting for? Sign up for Raid Shadow Legends today. If you do, you'll get the free champion Jotun, who's designed to help you climb the Doom Tower more easily, 100k silver, 50 gems, 3 ancient shards to summon new champions with, and my undying love and appreciation. But you gotta do so with the link down there below in the description to get all the goodies. After you click the link, sign up and do the tutorial. All of the loot will be in the upper right hand corner in this little treasure chest. You'll see a little red dot on it, you click it, and I guess I'll be seeing you guys in the PvP arena. If description links aren't your thing, no worries. Raid has you covered with this easy peasy QR code that will also work for this promo. Now let's get back to the main video. Okay, now that Raid is done, let's jump back to Call of Duty land. Let's take a quick look at the damage profile. The AUG and M16 both all deal 40 damage to the body all the way across and 72 for headshots. The FR556 is a little bit worse in this category, 40 to the body, 64 for the head. However, you only need one headshot from either of these weapons to decrease your total burst to kill, and it doesn't really change the shots to kill. So even though the number is overall lesser, it's not going to make very much difference in your time to kill calculation. They're all very close together on rates of fire, with the FR556 being at the top, and this is, of course, the rate of fire of the burst itself. The AUG's a little bit slower, and the M16 is significantly slower than the FR556, but both of those weapons do have attachments that can modify their fire rates as well, whereas the FR really does not. Now, one place the FR loses out is in burst delay. The FR556 has a colossal 333 millisecond burst delay that I measured myself. I just loaded in the game and just hand tested it in Warzone to see what it would do. The AUG is way faster at 200 milliseconds, and the M16 is faster than the FR still at 250 milliseconds. So there is a really, really big difference in the burst delay of these weapons that is not in the FR556's favor. However, there are some other things that are in its favor. I do want to say that the burst delay is a major drawback. It's one that we're going to focus on a lot in our class creation and kitting part of this video, and it's also probably the only thing keeping this weapon from being overpowered in this current meta. And I do want to just point out that the time to kill race between these weapons gets a lot tighter when you start landing headshots, even if you include that burst delay. If you're getting a lot of headshots with these weapons, they're all very melty and you won't notice a huge difference. One of the ways that I think the FR556 is more competitive is that its current recoil is way better than that of the AUG and similar to the M16 once it's fully kitted. So the AUG and M16, you're looking to reduce horizontal recoil, whereas with the FR556, what you're really trying to do is cut back its vertical recoil because it kicks up really harshly. So I did a little side-by-side comparison of the fully kitted FR556 recoil, you see the dots in red over there, and the newly nerfed AUG recoil on the right. Now, the AUG recoil is just kind of ridiculous in my opinion. I would have a hard time with that. But if you look at the red dots on the left with the FR556, it's really tight. That's going to be very easy to spam with. And for comparison, we should probably take a look at the M16. The M16's recoil pattern, not quite as tight as the FR556, but not particularly bad. It's only doing a little bit worse, and that weapon does have some other benefits to it. So I think that the M16 is really a stronger competitor with the FFR than the AUG, but the AUG's just the popular one. That's what we're gravitating around at the moment. I'd like to reiterate again that amongst all three weapons, I think the FR556 is the burst rifle with the lowest overall recoil, with the setup that I'm going to recommend here later in the video. When you compare ADS times, you'll see an interesting story. The FR has the fastest there, though it is very similar to the M16. I mean, that's splitting hairs. You'll never notice that. But the ADS time is significantly faster than that of the AUG. If you were using the based weapons, this would probably compensate for that 100 plus millisecond delay in your burst because you'll be shooting faster, which is quite nice. When it comes to bullet velocity, the FR556 is going to be superior as well. And of course, these are the base weapons. The attachments will boost this further, but the FR556 shoots at 720 meters per second. The AUG and M16 are both 615. And typically in Warzone, you're kitting these to make them shoot even faster. So by the time you're done loading on all of the attachments, it will again outstrip the AUG and M16. And bullet velocity is just one of those super important things in Warzone that people don't tend to think about and focus on, but it makes hitting shots at long ranges way easier. It works better with the lag. I really enjoy weapons that have insane bullet velocities, like say the SPR sniper, because it makes me feel like my shots are properly hitting like they should, instead of throwing marshmallows at people. So now toward the back end of the video, we're going to talk about my FR556 loadout and some of the upsides and drawbacks to this weapon. So I like to use the 24.4-inch sniper barrel. It reduces recoil and adds range, and there's pretty much nothing that this gun needs more than those two things. Monolithic suppressor keeps me off the radar, adds a little range and bullet velocity. It's great. I was tempted to use the compensator, but I just hate being on radar. That's very annoying for me. And you want to use the operator foregrip, which according to True Game Data, and I'm really leaning on him for a lot of the stats in this video, is going to reduce your recoil, vertical recoil, by 17%, which is about as good as you're going to get on this weapon, and you really shouldn't worry about the horizontal too much. So again, a little bit of word soup here on the screen, but the other two attachments that you're going to want is the canted hybrid sight, which you've seen me using in this video. Not a bad sight, not really one of my go-tos exactly, but this one will give you negative 15% vertical recoil and negative 25% horizontal recoil, which makes it more effective than any foregrip or any compensator or anything that you could put on the weapon, though it does slow down your ADS time. And it's noticeable and it's annoying, but it's essential to get the weapon to work properly. For the final attachment, it's just going to be whatever you want. You can put 60 round mags on there. You can put a grip on there. So you could run the rubberized grip and further reduce the recoil. You could run something like a tactical laser to help you ADS faster, or maybe one of the stocks. Your choice. Personally, for most of this, I'm going with the mags because I don't really want to ADS super fast with this weapon, since it's more or less designed for long ranges only. And I will say that if you don't want to run the operator foregrip, the bipod is a very interesting attachment, since it has actually no downsides, no ADS penalty, no move speed penalty, nothing like that. All it does is it gives you, I think, negative 17% recoil if you're crouched, and then negative 30-something% recoil if you're proned out. However, when I went in game to compare this side by side, I was crouched on the left, I was prone on the right. The bullet spread is not very different, to be honest. I can barely tell that the proned is better, and realistically, I think I would rather have an attachment, even if it slows my ADS a little bit, that gives me that same recoil as the one on the left, but I can do it from any position. I'm mounting the weapon a lot too, so it's not like it matters. What you're going to end up with, if you decide to run the FR556, is an amazing range and accuracy burst rifle. It is kind of going to be like the Halo battle rifle. You're going to have really great bullet velocity too. It's going to hammer people at longer and better ranges than the AUG or the M16 can, as long as you're, mounted or controlling your recoil or doing the things that you want to do with those weapons. It takes everything that was OP about the DMR and the AUG and just amplifies that. However, there are some very important downsides that we need to consider. Number one is that the FR556 handles pretty slow after you put all of these attachments on it to cut recoil and boost range and all of that. It is a very slow handling weapon and can be very awkward. Not only is it slow, but it has a longer burst delay, which makes it worse in close quarters combat because it's more difficult to spam your shots at enemies, and those follow-up shots are very, very important to hit. So what you really need for the FR556 to shine is a long-range engagement. Most players were using the AUG M16 for their long-range engagement, and then they would just swap right back to the Bullfrog, or definitely going to be the FFAR, which is too many FAMASs. I'm getting a little confused here. The FFAR for their close-range engagements, and I think that the FR556 can fill that niche. I think that the FR556 can do the long-range fights like the AUG and like the M16, maybe better. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure it's going to replace the M16. I think the FR could probably replace the AUG in its current state, but everybody's moving toward the M16 because it does a lot of the things that the AUG can do, but with better recoil now, and the M16 will ultimately handle better than the FR556. So I think that the M16 might still out-edge this weapon in terms of handling or ease of use, but when it comes to terms of long-term combat, like shooting people long ranges, the FR556 is going to be better. And at the end of the day, it is definitely worth keeping an eye on as other burst rifles get nerfed. The AUGs are probably going to get nerfed some more. The M16 is probably going to be the one the community whines about, so that's going to get nerfed, and the FFAR, and a lot of guns are going to change. But I would wager that the developers don't really pay a lot of attention to this FR556, and it might slip under the radar and become the new dominant weapon relatively soon. Well guys, that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful, and if you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.